All right. Hello. We are live. Actually, we're just gonna wait for more viewers, and then we're gonna start our discussion with our book club pick. So, I'm just
Okay.
gonna wait for some friends who have read or probably who just wanna hang out.
Okay.
So, right now it's 10 p.m. in Philippine time. What's your time in there, Ashley?
So I am on the east coast of the US, so it is 9 o'clock in the morning.
Good morning. Thank you
Good
so much
morning.
again for
Or-
agreeing to this at this early. I hope your kid was already settled.
Yeah, yeah.
But
She's usually up at 7:30 in the morning, so we've been going through the motions already.
that's good to hear. So again, we're just waiting for some people. We have like two viewers right now.
Okay.
So yeah, all right. So there are some comments already. We have here Trish from Trisha Paper. So again, people who are going to come in are mostly from like Filipino book community because
Okay.
they're also excited to discuss this book. So welcome again to my channel. This is her bookish side. I'm Kat, and we're going to discuss this book, which is King and the Dragonflies by Kacen Callender. I hope that you guys have read this as well, and you have some thoughts about it because we are really so excited to discuss this with you. So I have two guest co-hosts for today or for tonight, but B is going to come a little bit later, but hopefully they can make it. But I have here, oh my god, I'm so excited, Ashley from Bookish Realm, or I don't know if that's how you pronounce it,
Yes, it
but
is.
would you like would you like to introduce yourself, Ashley?
Okay. So my name is Ashley. I have a channel over at Bookish Realm. It's the same on Twitter and Instagram. I am a librarian and I pretty much read everything. Like, there's not much that's off limits for me. So, yeah.
All right, that's so cool. I didn't know that you're a
Yeah.
librarian. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
I am.
All right, so I have here some friends. Hello, Adrian. We have here Shade Tree
Tree Reed. Hey,
Reads.
Deidre.
Hi. Thank you for coming in this early. So, would you like Ashley to introduce what the book is all about? Since, okay, a librarian is here, so you might be the one who will discuss this, like the overview of the book.
hmm So, basically, I think I struggle with giving synopsis because I try not to, I try not to spoil it. And
Okay.
I read this book um, during the summer of last year. So it was my first time ever reading Kacen Callender. And I think more people probably are familiar with Kacen Callender's, like you said, their YA work, Felix Ever After.
Yeah.
The King and the Dragonflies is a middle grade book that focuses on a young boy who's dealing with the death of his brother. And he essentially believes that one of the dragonflies that he's come in contact with is possibly his brother. But
Yeah.
there's this whole other aspect of the book where um, he had this friendship with another kid, and his brother told him to stop playing with this kid because um, he was gay, or it was rumored that he was gay. And he was telling him, like, you don't want to be associated with that. You don't want people to think that you're gay.
Yeah.
And the same kid ends up actually going missing, and that's when our main character kind of has to work through um,
Mm-hmm.
the passing of his brother, his own identity, his identity in terms of like his family, and then working towards maybe possibly rebuilding that friendship. I just think it's such a complex book because I thought it was
Yeah.
going to be about maybe grief, but it was about so much more. Yeah.
Yeah. With that, I agree. I think when I like picked this book up, I thought
Mhm.
that it was just gonna be about King's grief because of his brother's death. But
Yeah.
when I was reading it, I just want to sit down and like think it through because it's just too much, like too much emotions, and also like I want to think it, or I mean, I want to think it through and process everything because it was just so good. Like it's, yes, as you said, it's very complex. So before we move on to like the main discussion, I'd like to know also from our viewers, if you've read this book, just probably comment a green heart if you've read the book, and then what color, a red heart if you haven't. So I just want to see on the comment section. So green heart if you've read it, and then red heart if you haven't yet. So we will know if we're going so much or dwell so much into the spoiler section, but as much as possible we'd like to stick to our thoughts rather than the like the main events in the book. So
I
yeah,
really
so
like
go.
that idea. That's cool.
No, I just got it from other booktubers.
Okay.
It's not an original idea. But yeah. All right. Yay. Okay. So we have here a couple of people who haven't read the book. Okay. But then Trish said that she's willing to get spoiled. So it's okay. We're gonna do we're gonna do it for you, girl. So yeah, some have finished it last night. Thank you so much, Ina, for watching and for reading pala the book. All right, so probably we're gonna go with first our overall thoughts about the book. What's your overall thoughts when you finish it, and what's your final rating? Would you like to share it first with our viewers, Ashley?
It was definitely an emotional read for me. I
Mm-hmm.
think because I feel like I resonated with this book a lot because of the discussion of the intersectionality between, um, sexual identity, gender identity, and
Mm-hmm.
then specifically looking at the Black community. Um, that is a huge thing. It is something that the Black community has struggled with a lot. The relationship between the two communities. And I think that King trying to navigate not only dealing with, because that opening section deals a lot with possibly looking at racism. I mean, there's conversation about racism throughout it, but King having to deal not only with um, his difference in terms of how he outwardly appears in terms of the color of his skin, but
Mm-hmm.
also trying to figure out, like, am I gay, am I not, like, I don't, so for me that was a huge thing because it's something that I've seen firsthand. For me, like, my I don't even want to say like my coming out process because it really, for my family at least, it was like, oh, okay. And it was just, you know what I'm saying, it was so natural feeling, I guess. It's kind of not a great word, but it wasn't any hiccups with it within the terms of my family. But I know that a lot of other Black people within um, our community struggle with that, being a part of two marginalized groups. So for me, that's the part that I really, really resonated with. And then I love that Kacen Callender showed the not so great aspects of friendship, especially for a
Mm-hmm.
middle grade novel. I think that
Yeah.
middle grade novels often do focus on friendships. It usually is kind of the core of middle grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that there was no perfect friendship there. Like, it
Yeah.
was really, really rocky, and they had to build back up to where they were before. So I really, really appreciated that. I mean, honestly, Kacen Callender is a very, very gifted writer. I'm not surprised that this one actually won the National Book Award. I
Yeah.
think it was,
Yeah.
yeah, last year. Yeah, it won the National Book Award. So I'm not surprised. It is very, very well done.
That's perfect. What's your final rating, by the way, after you
So I
finish it?
gave it 4 stars. You know what? I wish I would have reread it again to see if my rating would have stayed the same. Um, but yeah, when I first read it, it was a 4-star read.
Yeah, but still, that's still a good rating, high rating.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, um, Donna have a comment in here. She said that intersectionality was really the best part. I loved
Hmm.
how the book tackled this is not a very complicated way in a middle grade to it. And
Yes,
that's,
yes.
I super agree. So I haven't finished the book yet. I'm like 60% or 70% of the book at this
Hmm.
point, and
Hmm.
I really agree with how it tackled both marginalized group of like the Black community, and also like there is the gender identity crisis that's going on even in middle grade. And I feel like the book was just so raw when it comes to like emotions, and I can't really say that I can relate or I can see myself in King, but I just love how it made me understand, or it made me realize a lot of things that I don't really experience myself. So I have like a different light or a different perspective when it comes to middle grade. And I love middle grade books because it makes me think of I think it reminds me of a lot of things. But what I love about this book in particular is that it didn't remind me with a thing that I already know, but it made me learn something new about like the community, and also about being gay during this age. So I guess I also said it to Ashley earlier that I love Kacen Callender's writing style. Oh my gosh, I just love it. It's very lyrical. It's very poetic, and I read Felix Ever After last year, and it's also one of my favorite books last year. And I already know that I will love their writing style in this book. But what really surprised me is how easy it is for a middle grade to understand this kind of situation, but also it's very complex. Like it's not, you get it right, that it's not a very happy friendship or a happy family relationship. It was like it was so raw. It was very complex. It has so much layers. And I agree also that usually in middle grade we only see friendships that are, very solid and very positive. But in this one you will see a very realistic kind of friendship, that it will go through a lot of things, and probably it's because of like you have differences or you have misunderstandings with your identity or your gender. So in this case, I just love the emotions that it really made me feel. I I have so much emotions. I have so many thoughts, and I'd like to sit down and write a review so that I could give justice to the book, because I think that it deserves it. So I don't have a final rating yet, and also I'm not rating books pala. But I just really want to say how much I appreciate the topics that were discussed in here. There are actually a lot of things that were discussed. At first, I thought that it was just about grief and about coming out, because I know that there's a gay representation in the book, but also like it tackled a lot of sensitive issues, either in the Black community or in the LGBT plus community. So good. All right, so I think we have B in here. They are already here. I'm gonna add them to the stream.
Hi
Hi,
guys, thank you for
B.
waiting for me. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. We just started like 10 minutes ago. So B, would you like to introduce yourself first for our viewers, like your channel and all that stuff? Go ahead.
I am currently not making videos, but my whole like my bookish at or whatever is be bookish. So when I'm back doing that, that's what it'll be. I'm 25, non-binary. I live in the good old Midwest of the United States. So save me anytime you guys would like help. I read and I obsess over BTS in my spare time. Like that's all I do. So yeah.
All right. I love the part where you said you obsess about BTS in your spare time. We have the same
I am
like
literally wrapped
connection.
up in a BTS blanket as we speak.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Okay. Later we're gonna obsess about that. But we started talking about
Please do.
this book, by the way. Have you finished this one, B? And what's your overall thoughts, and what's your final rating of this book if you already read it?
I finished it. I listened to it while I was at work one night, and I thought it was good. I had put off reading this book for a super long time, so I didn't feel like dealing with themes of grief. But the way that Kacen hit into grief in this book was in such an innocent way, but it also gave you that look into how grief can affect people and how it can change aspects of their life, and how it's not always a constant sadness, or that it's not always just like gonna have a warning when it hits you. It just happens out of nowhere. Like when King was talking about how he would just burst out into tears sometimes, even when he wasn't feeling like it. And I really liked the book. I liked the way that they put a lens on racism and also figuring out your identity as a kid, because I feel like a lot of kids don't have that representation. And I feel like it's good for kids that age to see kids struggling with, do I like this person? Is it just like what everyone wants me to like? When he was dating Jasmine, he wasn't sure of like if he should hold her hand or if she give her a kiss or anything. That's what they were supposed to do. But he's having all these conflicting feelings about how he felt about him and his friend. I really, really, really liked it. I thought it was a sweet book, and I do like the ending a lot. I thought I would have a bit more emphasis on the dragonflies, but I feel like the way they were intertwined was just fine. I thought it was really well done.
All right, that's perfect. What did you rate it if you've rated it already?
It'd be a definite 4-star for sure.
That's so good. So yeah, so basically, the book itself, I mean, it was a common agreement that we really enjoyed it, and it was really a good book that tackled a different or a lot of things, a lot of topics in middle grade. And I agree with Donna in here as well that she said middle grades like this just takes you back when you were a child and just realizing things for yourself, right? Which is so true. Like during this time when you're like 11 to 12 years old, wherever you came from or what's your background or what country you live in, there like middle grades are really the time that you would like to explore on yourself more and you'd like to go out there and explore it with yourself. And I think the discussion of friendship and also again the gender identity in this book was just so good. I think it was just well done. And yeah, so okay, so there are some people here who said that they weren't able to finish the book, but they have listened to like the first 5 chapters. But yeah, hello everyone. I think we also have one fan here from BTS because he flooded the comment section with purple hearts. So yeah,
Yes.
um, my next question would be, what are your like the things that you love the most about this book? I know that we have discussed a little bit about this earlier, but if we're going to pin down the things that you love the most or for you the strongest point of the story, what would that be? Would like to go first?
I can go.
Go.
Sorry, y'all. Have my little one is here as well. For me, for me, I definitely if I had to choose like two things, I think writing style, and I'm going to go back to that intersectionality, were probably the best things for me. The writing was it was done in such a way where I think the simplest things were actually a lot more complex than we anticipated. Even the opening chapter where we think that there's going to be um, where King is dealing with hints of racism, but then it kind of ties into the fact that, you know, even this boy who potentially was going to be racist doesn't even know how to address the fact that his brother has died. It's very interesting. You go in thinking that you're going to get one thing, and then you end up getting such a complex conversation in almost a simple way. And then for me, like I'm just going to keep saying that intersectionality because I know when I was young, growing up, figuring out my identity in middle school. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have this. Um, and granted, I am privileged in the sense that I grew up in a family where, you know, whatever your identity was in terms of your gender or your sexuality, it wasn't a big thing. You know, my family is just very, very open. But at the same time, I have peers and friends who I know they didn't have that same opportunity, you know? So I think that having a book like this growing up when you're trying to navigate those middle grade years that, you know, middle school in between the ages of, I would even say like 9 to 12, where you're not yet a teenager, but you're not really a child and you're developing and you have all these emotions and these feelings. And you know, having something like this, and this is just from a librarian perspective, is very, very important because for some kids, this is the only discussions that they're going to get. They may not get it from parents or caregivers or any other adult in their life. So having something like this where you see a character who is dealing with that intersectionality of two marginalizations may be extremely important for a child to see that they may not see at all in their life. So I know it's like beating it's like beating the same thing over and over again, but I promise you it is super, super important.
All right. Yeah. I think I'm just really so I'm just like listening to Ashley and I was like, yeah, that's so right. That's so I agree. I agree. So that's what I've been doing all this time. I'm just gonna go next and then last would be B. I think I would agree one of my favorite things in the book, as I've said earlier, was like Kacen Callender's writing style. Like so good, so good, chef's kiss. I love it so much. But also, yeah, the messages of this book, like how it surprised me. You know, I have like high standards already when it comes to Case and Calendar's book because of like the ones that I've read in the past. But like that is that standard or that expectations were exceeded. I was really surprised. This one took me by surprise of how complicated things or how complicated topics were like presented in a middle grade book. And for me, that was just really such a good thing. And that's really the strongest point for me because I feel like if a middle grade would read this book, they would understand it easily because of like the way that it was written, but also because as actually you have said, there is like a representation of themselves, especially if you are from the Black or from the LGBT community. So I think that was it was just so well done and I just love it. I have high praises even though I haven't finished the book yet, but I just love it so much. How about you, B? What are your favorite things in the book or the strongest points for you?
I would definitely have to say the conversations that King was having with his friends were so, you know, they didn't beat around the bush at all. Like, you know how adults like to, mince words and dance around the point. They were very to the point. Like when his friend was confronting him about why he stopped talking to him, he was like, "You hurt my feelings." He would talk every day. Like, you were the one person I would go to. Mine is Jasmine, and I lost that, and it hurt. And he even brought up the fact that like, people wanted to hurt you and your brother because you guys were Black, but you wanted to, remove me from your life because I was gay. Isn't that the same kind of hatred? Isn't that the same kind of ignorance? And I do like the fact that we got all of these tough topics, but it still felt like, Kason was holding us at the same time. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, because the roller coaster that even the parents were going on, and then like the constant anxiety that King was going through, and, him realizing the different stages of grief, like when he was so focused on his sadness at the beginning of the book, and then towards the middle of it, whenever I don't want to spoil anything, towards the middle of it, when everything was going on with his friend, and he was kind of finding his new normal, like his parents wanted to play, and he was finding those moments of happiness and sadness still, and he was realizing that he wasn't thinking about his brother that often, and him having to deal with the fact that it doesn't mean that he doesn't love his brother. It just means that, things have to go on, and he can still be with me even if you're not here. I also did like the fact that, throughout this whole book, there are huge themes of queerness and everything, and, queerness being this negative connotation. And it was his brother that said some of those things to him. So dealing with that from a family member and seeing someone deal with that from a family member was very, I think, refreshing to see, because people like to pretend that their family won't say those things. And they would, like, when I grew up, my mom did not care if anyone was gay, non-binary. I came out to her like last year on bike. She's like, okay, and kept on playing her Scrabble game. She did not care, honey. But we grew up in the church, the Southern Baptist Church, and they are very, very homophobic. So like being gay wasn't a thing we did. So it wasn't something that I got to think about and or face until I left my home after I was 18. Like, it took me years to be comfortable with queerness and have that space to grow. And I feel like if I had a book like this growing up, it'd be a lot easier to deal with some of those feelings, because even at school, if you were gay, it was weird. And I feel like I like left school right at the end of that time where no one cared if you were gay. And just having that experience and seeing his friends like, oh, so are you gay too? Are you gay too? Well, if you're gay, you should be telling people those things. And like seeing how people wanted you to just out yourself and spill every part of yourself. It's seeing the like same parallels within them and some people now. I think Kacen did such a great job of showing many facets of different people and personalities, and the fact that they added racism in there, and you got little hints of it because you still had people who were still back in this time in the South, and they were still dealing with this on top of the queerness. Like Ashley said, the intersectionality. It was just, I can't praise it enough. So, and I've read Queen of the Conquered, their book, and then Felix Ever After, and that was a whole roller coaster too. Like he just takes his characters on such a ride all the time, and I was nervous about this one, but I was pleasantly surprised at the end. I thought I was going to be done listening to it after 5 chapters and went, okay, I'm bored. But I finished the whole thing and didn't realize like hours had gone by. I was shocked, but yeah, those are some of my favorite things. Just how the conversations were held and done. And I loved King. He was such a sweetheart.
All right, yeah, I that's true. I also listened to like the audiobook simultaneously with the physical book. It was just really so immersive and engaging, and you will really not feel that you are like going through hours of listening to it. So yeah, we highly suggest the audiobook as well. It was so good. But also I agree with like the conversations or the dynamics with the characters in here. I I just feel like it's just very middle grade. I don't know how will I explain. Like there are middle grades who don't sound like middle grades, but this one really did, and it really worked for me. By the way, I'm a teacher. I'm an educator here in the Philippines, and I teach like middle school. Not really middle school. It's not called middle school here. It's like high school, but like grade 7. So those are like the age range that where I taught for like 5 years in that level, and I can see my students reading a book like this and understanding it. And I really agree with the both of you when you said that if this is the book that the middle grades would read, they would definitely see themselves, or when they see themselves in this book, they will like feel validated. And I'm just really so happy that this book exists. And yeah, Trish also said here that it would have been really nice to have books like this back when I was younger, and I super agree. Like as you have said, you have two said that if this book like this exists back when like we were like in 90s or it would have been so much better, and you will really feel validated and not so out of place, or I don't know, sometimes you feel weird. So yeah, there were so many topic questions that adults weren't really willing to talk to kids or tweens about. And having books like this would have been very helpful during a time when young people are starting to explore their interests and themselves. And that's why I think that it's really important for us to like find books, especially in middle grade, or that we could recommend that we think have good representation. I think that's such an important thing when it comes to reading books, especially if it's for middle grades. And then follow up questions with that. I'd just like to ask you to is there any scene, like particular scene in the book that you feel resonate, or you feel you can connect to the most, or you can relate to the most, like a particular scene in the book? Because I think you have like you're like the closest as you have said, like you have the closest representation with King. And yeah, so do you have any, just probably one or two scenes that you think you can relate yourself with, or you can see yourself with the most with King? um yeah. So that's the question.
That's such a hard question.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm gonna go first, but it's not because like um, what do you call this? I just read this conversation between King and Sandy when, or after the conversation, King was like thinking that is it what you call like when you, what's that conversation? What's that? He was thinking like, is it, is this what you call like when you like a person when you want to see him, or when you like to see his smile, and when you like to be with him or talk to him when you enjoy your time? Is this what you call like? So when King was thinking about that, I was like, oh, me, that's me in middle school. I was like thinking if I like this person or not, because you're confused, right? When you're like in middle grade, you don't know what like is, or you don't know what love is. And usually during that time, there's a pressure to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. And I think it was also shown in this story that King was like pressured to have a girlfriend because he's already in middle school. And then what if you don't like a girl? What if you like someone else? And that's kind of the question that keeps into your mind. So probably that's one of the scenes that I see myself in King. Like, all right, that's me. I saw myself in you, King. I was like thinking like that when I was in middle school. Like, what if I don't know what like is? I don't know how to like a person, how to be in a relationship to a person. But everybody has been telling me to have a boyfriend or have a girlfriend. So I think that's just one scene in particular for me. But what about you? Are there any scenes that you feel like you most relate to King or to any other characters if you'd like to share it? Any experiences with other characters?
So I'm not going to be able to quote exactly because it's been a while.
It's
But I
okay.
will say that at any point for me that I related to a lot in terms of like scenes and conversations is when the friendship aspects were messy. Kind of like B was talking about, like, the honest and I don't want to say cutthroat, but really like this is a black and white conversation. We're not gonna beat around the bush. I think I related to all of those conversations a lot because I remember growing up how messy friendships were. Friendships can be messy now as adults, but I think it's important, or it was important for me, because a lot of times, like we've already talked about, I think, and it's not a pitfall of middle grade, but it is a characteristic of middle grade sometimes, is that we get just surface level friendships. We get that friendships are important. We get that the support of other characters in terms of our main character is important. But I think seeing flaws, especially seeing flaws even in King, was very important for me because it reminds people that we're human. And at the end of the day, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up friendships. Um, you're not going to be perfect. And it's okay not to be perfect. I think sometimes, even in that age bracket, at least for me in my own experience, and I don't know what it was, it wasn't necessarily anything that like my caregivers or my parents necessarily did, but I felt this need to be perfect, to get everything right. And I think, a lot of kids end up feeling like that. So seeing King mess up, seeing them having these raw, uncut conversations like, you messed up, or you hurt my feelings, or you let me down. It was important. And it was important for me, even as an adult, to remind myself like, hey, you have friendships, you have people who are in your life, you're gonna mess up. It's a part of life. And I know that as a kid, I would have loved to see that. I would have loved for someone to say, hey, your friendships are not going to be perfect. You're going to hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody's going to hurt your feelings. And you need to be honest about it and have the conversations of, this is what happened. How do we move forward? So, not an exact scene, but any of those scenes that involve those elements, I really, really did enjoy.
Sorry, my buddy's being loud. I would definitely agree with Ashley. The scenes with the friends and seeing the relationship dynamics shift and move so quickly. That's what I remember about being younger. The I hate you in first period, and then by seventh period, y'all are friends again. And then like Ashley said, seeing King have lost too. Like he knew he didn't actually want to be with his friend. Like he knew he shouldn't have been dating her, and it felt weird, but he wanted to please her. And I really empathize with that because I wanted to please everyone to a detrimental point when I was younger, to where I would lie to them or like coddle the feelings a little bit, and even him like trying to help Sandy and not wanting to hurt his feelings and everything, and then his parents not wanting to hurt them because he knows they're going through the loss of a son, and he doesn't want to add to that by putting his identity on the table and possibly causing drama with that. And he knows it's also dangerous for him to be out and queer in the South where he's at right now during this time. And the fact that his friend was a son of a sheriff that is known to be racist and has caused harm to people was so powerful to me, because it shows that sometimes things and relationships extend further than just the people that are part of it, sometimes the tying family lines can bleed into that and affect how people see that and affect the past and how everything's going to shift and move forward. It was just, I want to say I saw myself in a little bit of every scene. It sounds like much what I do because Kacen did such a good job of, it was a messy book. It wasn't something that was easy to digest. So it left you thinking after every chapter. And King was thinking with you, like reading along with the audio book. It was just like he was asking questions, and I was like, "Well, shit, me too." Like I want to know how you go forward from here as well. And I think just having those little lessons, and I think Kacen did a great job of hitting a lot of lessons that kids experience in school, especially the middle school one. Like especially when Sandy went missing initially, and they were all looking for him, and some of his friends were like, "Okay, we're here to look for Sandy," but then his friend Jasmine was like broken up, torn up, like he could be gone forever, and King is like, "You're right, but like this is our best friend. We have to be there for him," and showing the different levels of emotion that kids can go through and how intense and how all-encompassing emotions can be at that age. I thought it was just really, really well done. So yeah, a little bit of everything in every scene. I was like, damn, that's me. I see myself in that one. It was just good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really relatable when like you see a little bit of yourself in every aspect of the book. And again, because I think that the book or the story itself was very like it has so much raw emotions. Like as you have said, it wasn't like the normal positive book that will give you like everything will go all right or everything will be fine. It's not like that. It was more complex than that. And I really loved how you pointed out the friendship with like Sandy and King because I think it makes them more human. I think it makes them more middle grade. You know, like friendships are messed up in middle grade. So that with that one I could really agree. Like I also experienced that with like Filipino culture. Sometimes you're friends with a person on like Monday and then by Tuesday you're not because you had like misunderstandings. You're 12 years old, so it's valid. It's very valid. So some also comments here said that Ina remembers that scene and okay, what scene is that? Sorry. So this is a little sad, but I relate with the scenes with King's family as they deal with grief, and that is also one thing. The scenes where they touch on family dynamic after their loss reminded me of how it was in our house when I lost my grandmother. So so that was really so one of the saddest points of the book is how King dealt with his brother's death. And also, even though his brother was technically a homophobe, he still values him and he still like have high regards to him. So it really broke his heart when his brother died. Trish also said that learning that friendships can be messy and complicated at an early age would have kept a lot of us from being people pleasers. Haha, but it was so true, right? Like if you have already realized it in middle grade that you can't please everybody and you can't be friends with everybody, I think it would have saved us more time with like pleasing people everywhere. So I think it goes that way. So let's then after discussing this is strongest points, let's go to the dragonflies because it's also an interesting topic for me. When I first read the title, I thought it's gonna be something like if you've read what's the for the book Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega. It's a book by a a Latina author, and it also has like fireflies, dragonflies elements in there. Wherein the main character, I forgot her name, but the main character has relatives that became fireflies, and they
Lucelli
have like
Luna.
oh yeah, okay. So Lucelli, okay, yeah, right. Lucelli, they have this culture or belief in their culture or in their community. I mean that the dead or the spirits of the dead will turn into fireflies, and then you can live with them with your like ancestral house and in a tree, in a magical tree. So that's what I thought with this book. So we're gonna talk about a little bit of the dragonflies because King has really a strong belief that his brother is not dead, but he turned out to be a dragonfly. And I'm just really curious with like if it's a normal cult, or it's a norm, or it's in your culture, or from your background or your family's beliefs, that you believe that the spirits of the dead can be turned into dragonflies, or is it just like a myth or something that you believe when you were, I don't know, growing up, or do you still believe it up to this day that the spirits of the dead will be just around the corner? Yeah, anyone who'd like to say something about that?
So growing up, that's never been anything that I'm necessarily familiar with.
Oh, all
Um,
right.
I have always been taught that dragonflies are a symbol of change and growth and maturity. So I probably read it more so from that angle of the constant presence of dragonflies meant that King was going through a change and going through some form of maturing and transforming in terms of like identity. So that's kind of how I read it, but I haven't read Ghost Squad, which I know B is a huge fan of that book. And I have a copy literally across the room right now. So, so I don't have much in relationship to that, but not to my knowledge have I ever heard of that before. But I have heard of other symbolic meanings behind dragonflies, which kind of influence how I read King as a character.
I never heard anything about dragonflies or what they represented growing up, so it did harken back to Ghost Watch for me. Just I love that book. It's such a great book, and it also hits themes of grief well too. With that one and Lucelli's Adventure, so absolutely read that. Actually, like you are going to love that one. And the audiobook is on Spotify if you guys don't feel like paying for it, just for anyone that wants to listen to it. But I thought the dragonfly. I feel like when people lose people, we all want to find something to hold on to. I know in America, at least, or what I've seen, like someone's mom will pass. Like my sister's grandfather passed. She's not really my sister, but we call her that. And he loved eagles. And after he passed, she saw an eagle, and it came and landed like in front of her. And then like people finding butterflies that'll fly and land on them. They've lost a loved one, or just seeing a sign of something. I feel like people look for that sign. And when King was sitting there in the funeral, and he was talking about how like his dad said men don't cry, but he was just sobbing that day. And then he sees this dragonfly fly in the window, and he's like, oh, well, that must be King. I love that he found that one symbol of light and hope and something strange and beautiful within a really dark situation, and he held on to that because I mean it did seem like King was speaking to them, like him going to commune with the dragonflies darn near every day after school, and bring him a little bit closer to his brother, if not physically but spiritually. I just really like the symbolism they had, and I also like that even when King was off doing his own thing for a little bit and trying to help his friend, the dragonfly stayed constant. I feel like that's one thing that people should take away from that, is that the people you love, even if they do leave, they're always there with you constantly. And then I love the part at the end when he was with dragonflies, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's like he's like, I don't know if it's coincidence or if it was just them doing their thing, but they all like flew up at the same time and went away, and he was like, and he like used that as a release of all of the past hurt that's happened and him moving forward into a new chapter. I just loved how the dragonflies, they were important, but they were there to like support the story and the feelings that King was having. I love that a lot. Even though dragonflies kind of scare me.
Well, that's the truth. It scares us. So I think at first I thought that you have, like in your culture, like we have the same ones with the Latinx culture, or like the belief about the fireflies and the dragonflies, because I kind of connected it with that. But now I've learned that it's not really a thing. I think more than that, like more than the main premise of the book or the story, it's more of like the symbolism or the metaphor of the dragonfly. But personally, here in the Philippines, we don't really believe in the like transferring the spirit to an like for an insect. But sometimes there are certain, I don't know, beliefs in some families, in Filipino families, wherein we also believe that when you see a butterfly, it's like a spirit of the dead from your family. Like when you see a blue butterfly, oh, that's my grandmother, or like, or that's my dead grandfather. So it kind of have that same premise. And I agree with B that sometimes, even though it's not literally their spirit, it was like you want to find comfort in in something that you can see around you. And when you just see that symbolism, it feels like they were like never really gone, but they were like just there, and you can't speak to them like the usual. And I think that's just like the way King also deals with his grief at a young age. So I think it's also a good representation of how we have different ways of dealing with grief and you know, heartaches and pain because of someone that was gone, and you really admire that person. So that was really a good symbolism. I think again, Calendar have made it done it well. So that was so good. Probably last question for the book is, what's the biggest thing that you have learned from this one? Like, what's your biggest takeaway after you've read it? What's one thing that you will never forget about this book? And then I'm gonna go ahead and follow it up while you're thinking. The very last question would be if there are any middle grade books that are written by Black authors or by queer authors that you'd like to promote or you'd like to recommend to us, our viewers. To me personally, you can share it as well after you've answered the last question. So probably just go ahead and think about that. And there's some comments in here. Shade Tree said that they also love Ghost Squad. Okay, one of the best books that I've read. And also Claribel Ortega is going to release a new book, I think, this year. And it's also a middle grade. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, Babette Fan Club. Okay, this is also from the Ghost Squad. I'm sorry. um, so Trish is a Filipino booktuber, and she said that if you see a moth, it's probably your lola or lolo. So lola or lola is like grandmother or grandfather. So that's like how we deal with, you know, believing that the spirit of our dead lolo and lola is just around the corner. So I think that's how we dealt with it. But we don't really believe like literally the spirits are everywhere. Okay. Seeing a lightning bug. All right, so probably you've heard about this, that when you see a lightning bug, they're like the dead spirits of her family is just around the corner or something like that. All right, so again, last question, your biggest takeaway, and if you'd like to recommend a middle grade book that is written by Black author or by queer author that you'd like to share with us. Anyone again would like to answer first?
Um, Biggest takeaway from me, um, I think for me the importance of having straightforward conversations, because it's still something that I struggle with as an adult. And like Trish said earlier, like if we would have had these conversations when we were younger, we wouldn't be people pleasers now. And that's something that I still struggle with. I mean, at my age, it's so crazy to say that, but I mean, being completely transparent is still trying to appease the people. And it's like, at some point, you can't do that. Um, and sometimes you just have to be willing to have those open conversations, and be honest with people. Not saying like I go around and not lie to people, but I think sometimes um, I'm so actively aware of other people's feelings that I don't tell them the complete truth. And I think sometimes you need to be to truly be aware of someone's feelings. You have to tell them the complete truth, and you can't beat around the bush and avoid the tough conversations. I actually did that this morning, so I'm very, very proud of myself. I'm very, very proud of myself for doing that. But I think that is and it's crazy because it's a middle grade book, but I think even as an adult, there are things that you can take away from this, and that's definitely one thing that I know that I actively want to practice in my life going forward. Now, for recommendations, I mean, do you want one or two, or what? What are we talking here?
How many you could give? No, I'm just kidding. Like probably 1 to 3 middle grade books.
Oh gosh. This is great. I'm gonna give one series because this is one that popped and it's just in the top of my head. I think that the Jumbie series by Tracy Baptiste is a great middle grade fantasy. The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert is a great book that really looks at the whole concept of Black people not being a monolith. That's a really, really great one. I'm trying to think. I mean, I have a lot, but I'm trying to narrow it down to one last one, and that is so hard. Another author that handles difficult topics really, really well is Jason Reynolds. His Track series is a great middle grade series. Focuses on different characters, but each one definitely handles some really, really great topics. So those are my three.
Yeah, that's so good. I really love Jason Reynolds, one of my favorite authors of all time. But I haven't read a middle grade book by him so far. But I love that author. Anyway, thank you for those recommendations. We're going back to this. By the way, this live show will be saved on my channel so that if you are going to look for like middle grade recommendations by Ashley or B, you can just go ahead, go back, and then add it on your TBR, our never ending TBR. But yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. How about you, B? Biggest takeaway, and then you can go ahead with your recommendations.
I think my biggest takeaway personally was, it's okay to exist in multiple states. You can be sad, you can, and still have those moments of happiness. You can be angry, but still want to show love. You can be confused and hurt, but still want to do better. And I feel like that's what adults nowadays, it's like what we don't get. We don't give ourselves the grace of messing up and the grace of being able to exist in dualities. Like if we're sad one day, we have to be sad that whole day. We can't just acknowledge the good that's in that day because, if you're acknowledging the good and you're happy, it means you're not really sad. And I feel like we tear ourselves down by not letting ourselves fully experience the wide range of emotions we've been blessed with, because it's okay to be unemotional sometimes and ignore that stuff. But the true power comes from growing through that hurt and changing and coming on the other side and being like, wow, okay, I made it through that. And like, what have you learned from that and taking that from it? And then the honesty, I think the honesty is a huge thing that we should take away from it, because if these kids are able to be so transparent with each other, why can't adults do the same thing? And the bravery and encouragement takes just to stand every day and be you. Like when King was going to the sheriff's house to check on his friend, even if he knew that could very well mean, him getting killed, no matter if he's a little boy. Like he still has to worry about his race, and he still went there, and he still wanted to protect his friend no matter what. I think having just those small instances of bravery and not teetering on the fence and just going for it, I think that's important. And I think at the end, especially, King showed that it's okay to be scared of change. Like change is daunting and sometimes it feels huge and terrible, but at the end of the day, it can always bring good. You always have to have the courage to speak up if you feel something's wrong. Like he spoke up. It took him a little bit, but he spoke up once he figured out something was wrong, and his parents helped him. And I think kids have a lot of fear of going to adults and telling them things that could hurt them and could also disrupt the peace or the calm. And I hope kids find comfort in the fact that King was able to, towards the end of the book, stand up for himself and his friends and all that stuff too. I loved it. There are so many facets to this, and it was just, gosh, Kacen, I can't wait to read what else he writes. But 3 middle grades, I have not read a ton of middle grade. I recently read Maya and the Rising Dark by I believe it's pronounced Aaron. She also wrote Kingdom of Souls, which I have not finished, but that was a good one. I loved it. It was very, very, very full of African mythos and lore. I loved it a lot, and it was a sweet action-filled ride. Ghost Squad, obviously, that one literally reminded me of like Scooby-Doo, and then I Bet the Witch. Gotta give her all her props. Like, I want a spin-off story just of hers. And then I think the one I most recently read that just knocked me off my feet was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. That book.
Oh my God.
It was so good. It was so good. It was magical, and I'm not going to compare anything that he wrote to a series that will no longer be named. But if you guys cannot stop being hung up on that one, get this one. It gave me all the magic and new feeling of wanting to experience a book for the first time. Like, I was 30 pages and I was like, how do I unread these 30 pages so I can start again? And I was like tabbing everything up. And Amari was also a really good character that symbolized, perseverance, because she experienced racism, microaggressions. These kids were on her at all times because of her financial situation, her skin color, her hair, who she hung out with, and she continued to prove them wrong. And even when she could have used, harmful tactics to get back at them, she chose to show them something with light, something with love, and show that, I know things are scary, but open your mind and give it a chance. I just loved it. And the way that B.B. Alston ended that book, perfect. I would not change nothing about that book. But yeah, those are my 3 that I recommend.
All right, that's perfect. I think I'm gonna check that last book because of your enthusiasm.
It is good. You will love it. I mean, it is a perfect book. I can't believe I forgot that one. Thank you, B. It's a perfect book. Perfect book.
All right, sorry. Is it a series? Is it?
It's going to be, the first one was just released in January of this year. It's his debut, which is the other mind-blowing part of it, is that B.B. Alston has never written anything else. It is wild how perfect that book is. So take your time, because you're going to finish it and then you're going to be like, wait, where's the second book?
Oh my goodness. But is it fantasy, like magical system?
It has a magical system. I don't even really want to tell you much, because it's good if you don't really know much going in. Because I thought it was one thing and it was something different, and it's wonderful. It's great.
Just know that her brother goes missing, and she finds this mysterious case in his closet, and then she goes on this like little trip, and he's like, well, I'm going to give you this entrance into a place where I was, because her family was told that he was into like things with bad guys, like, gangs and drugs, and that's why he went missing. But he was actually a really prominent and powerful figure in this underground magical world. And I'm like, it so good. Like, I swear, like, her walking into this place and like her mentor falls from the freaking sky and breaks his desk. Like, it's like that kind of fun vibe.
Oh my
And there's so much going on. Like, it's great. It's oh my gosh. I need you to read it now.
Yeah,
all right. I'm going
you have to read it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I feel like I'm going to have fun with that book. So I don't know how to pronounce that username, but it says Magic School Fantasy, I think. That's how they describe it. Okay. Trish said, OMG, we need to add Amari and the Night Brother for our book club. TBR. Definitely. Okay. So actually, Trish, Gerald, and I were like booktubers from the Philippines, and we have a book club also for what do you call this? We have 3 genres that we are reading every month. I mean, every month we have different genres that we're reading by Black, Indigenous, and then persons of color authors. So we're like planning out our lineup for for the whole year. So now we have one recommendation from you, and I'm just really so excited about this one. I think I've seen this cover last month, but I didn't know that it was is it middle grade, you say?
Yeah, it's middle grade. It's definitely middle grade. Yeah.
All right, am I good? Am I good?
Yeah, you're back
So,
now.
okay, sorry. All right, so we're gonna read it. I swear, I'm gonna read it very soon. I think so. Yeah. So for me, going back to the question with the book, I think
Yep, I'm pretty sure we lost you.
Season two.
Okay. Wait.
Okay, you're back. Yay.
Yeah. I think.
Oh no.
Right.
Come back.
Come back.
Come back, Jack. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna see if she's on Twitter. What do we do without the host?
I've always wondered. There we go. Are you back?
I was sweating.
Wait. No, I don't think you're back yet. No.
Oh no! I feel like we was hijacked. You have 10 hours to release the Batman.
I'm sorry. Am I
No,
back?
now you're back. Okay.
Okay. I was telling Ashley earlier that I am not currently at home, so my internet is failing me. I'm sorry.
I feel that mine is bad.
All right, that's okay. Anyway, so let's just finish this one. But yeah, again, my biggest takeaway would definitely how it validates us to feel not okay. It's okay to be not okay all the time. So I think that's the best one. It reminds me that it's okay to make mistake and make allowances for yourself to make mistakes. So that's just one of the biggest takeaway that I have so far with the book. With the recommendations, I think if you've seen what do you call this? My book club page, which is in Cosmic Dreams. Recently I've read what is that one? Everlasting Nora by Marie Miranda Cruz. That's by a Filipino author. It talks about the culture of the Philippines, like a 12-year-old girl who lives in a cemetery because they are really underprivileged. So that's one. And then also My Fate According to the Butterfly by Gail D. Villanueva is also one middle grade by a Filipino author who talks about the issues in the Philippines, especially during like the present government. So yeah, there's also one important book that talks about the state of the Philippines at the moment. And yeah, Ghost Squad. I love that book as well. All right, so I think I'm gonna go with that recommendations, but there are like a lot of middle grade books that I have yet to read, and I'm just really so excited about it. So before I end this, I would like just to announce that the next book club pick for In Cosmic Dreams is going to be Amal Unbound by Aisha Saeed. I don't have like the physical copy yet. Have you read it too? Oh my god, I haven't read it.
I wanted to read those, so you're giving me an excuse to read it.
Yes, it's good.
Oh my god. Really? Oh my gosh. So I don't have my physical copy yet because again, I'm in the Philippines. My copy is from the US. So I think it's coming this month. And Amal Unbound talks about a girl from a Pakistani village, and they're going to talk about their culture and like the beliefs within their culture. So I'm just really so excited about that book. So that's the book club pick for March, and then the live discussion will be on April, probably on the first week of April. But yeah, I hope that you could join us in that discussion as well. But before I end this, I'd like to say thank you so much. This is a really what do you call this? This is a really privilege, and I'm really overwhelmed that Ashley and B agreed agreed to do this live show with me. I'm just really so I was so overwhelmed when you said yes, because I always watch your videos, the two of you, and you I get my recommendations by Black authors, by the content creators like you guys, and I'm just really so excited to talk to you in this live show. This is the first time that we talked like like this. We just chat on Instagram, and it was just really a fun time. I really had fun. I hope that you also had fun. Do you want to say something before we end this? If you want to promote a live show or your socials or whatever. But anyway, they are all linked down below, like their YouTube channel and then Instagram, Twitter, everything else. It's gonna be on the description box. But if you'd like to promote something else, go ahead.
Well, no promotions, but thank you so much for having us. Like, I'm so happy that you reached out to ask us to be a part of this. Like, I really it was a great discussion. Like, we've never talked in person, so this is be I've talked to you in person, but the three of us together outside
Thank you.
having a conversation on Instagram. Like, so it was a great conversation. So I appreciate you even asking us to participate.
No, for real. Thank you so much. I know my
Thank you.
relationship with BookTube can be very spotty. I don't really have a good mentor relationship with it, but I was nervous coming on here, but it was such a good, comforting, discussion. And we actually like discussed the themes of the book, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm not gonna lie to you, girl. I saw you all up and down the TL tweeting about BTS all the time, and I'm like, how do I like all of her tweets without seeming like a stalker? Like, how do we become friends over BTS? Like, please, I love J-Hope too. So yes,
That
thank
was
you.
really so
I
funny.
know we're gonna talk more after this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, B. I mean, I know that I share my love for BTS with you and some other readers and book Twitter. It was just really such a fun experience. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for those who stayed for 1 hour with this live show. But I hope that you could also like check out Ashley and B's channels on the description box. And also, I'd like to say thank you because tonight I just reached 1,000 subscribers. Like, I just reached that number. Oh my God, thank you so much. I was so happy because I turned 1 year in BookTube yesterday. And it was really an accomplishment for me. So thank you for everyone. And thank you so much again, Ashley and B. That's it for this live show. Hope you have a good night or a good morning wherever you are, guys. And see you on the next one. Bye. I'm gonna end the live now. All right,